welcome. You're watching Countdown on Bloomberg Quint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. These are the top headlines that we're tracking at this hour. Markets are off the day's high but managed to hold on to gains. The Nifty trades above the 10,550 mark. Metal stocks lead the gains. Punjab National Bank falls almost 17% in the last two trading sessions after reporting its 11,000 crore fraud. The Enforcement Directorate conducts search and seizure operation across 12 locations in Mumbai. Jewelry stocks drop amid fears that investigation in the PNB fraud case might spread to other jewelers as well. And wholesale prices rose at a slower pace in the month of January, with food articles falling 2.4% last month.
Well, thanks for that, Navneet. If that tried to give some bit of buoyancy to the Nifty Bank, it was quickly sold into. We're now trading off the highs of the day quite meaningfully. Now, remember, this is the one-year chart for the Nifty and the Nifty Bank. The reason I bring it up is all through the last 1 year, we found support at this 100-day moving average. We've seen spots here, and this time around too, we've just come off from these levels. This was not the close. It remains to be seen if this is a level that holds again when we bounce back from these levels. Similarly for the Nifty Bank as well, if Mormus can pull up the Nifty Bank index, the 100-day moving average has proven to be the pivot from where the bounce backs have happened. This time around too, we are finding support right here. Let's see, there's a bit of a bounce that happens from this 100-day moving average or no. In today's session, the Nifty Bank significantly off the highs of the day, currently about 80 odd points in the session. So the last 45 minutes or last 1 hour of trade hasn't been too kind to the Nifty Bank. Quickly get up the heat map and show you what's doing well and what isn't. Actually, there aren't too many banking names which are pulling the index down. I was looking at it, save for IndusInd Bank, which I don't think really, or Kotak Bank, which don't get materially impacted by this. It's not that the private banking names or large PSU banks are dragging the index lower, just that a lot of gainers have come off from the levels that they were trading at. Nevertheless, some winners include an ICICI Bank, include the commodity names like Hindalco and Vedanta, which are doing rather well for themselves, and Infosys from amongst the larger heavyweights is piling on the gains about a couple of percentage points, and that's helping the index, the Sensex and the Nifty, do rather well for themselves in the session today. But well, if this is the large cap picture and which is looking okay, the mid caps and the small caps are not looking okay. The mid cap and the small cap indices per se, both the indices too, trading very, very flat with some bit of losses, in fact, coming at the smaller end of the spectrum. What about the liquid universe, Naveen?
Neeraj, we're off day's high, but one positive news is that the volatility continues to cool off. Remember, that's been one of the concerns for our markets. So the India VIX has seen cuts of about closer to 5 to 6% in today's session. And we highlighted this in the morning, that Bank Nifty could see a bit of volatile trade in today's session, considering today's the Bank Nifty weekly options expiry day. But let me just first start off with Nifty. We took out yesterday's high level of 10,590. So that remains pretty crucial for today's closing. Let's see if we can close above the yesterday's high mark of 10,590 or not. But we did cross the 10,600 mark definitely in today's session. But there was once again some sort of short positions being built up on every pullback that the market has seen so far. But we're still trading around the 50-day moving average. In terms of option strike, a lot of unwinding has been seen today on the call side. The market is higher and you're seeing unwinding for call strikes 10,004, 5 as well as 600. 10,500 for February series remains very, very critical. That's the strike which is sitting with maximum open interest concentration on the put side. And in the last few sessions, I've been observing there's a lot of heavy riding, a lot of interest has been seen around this counter. Probably the traders are betting that the expiry for the February series could happen around the mark of 10,500. Let's chat about Bank Nifty, which is in focus. The PSU banking space has let the Bank Nifty lower once again in today's session. That's the index which is in red. All the constituents of Nifty PSU banking index are trading in the red besides the State Bank of India. 5% higher in terms of open interest build up. Remember, yesterday it was 12% OI build up. Some short positions were definitely seen. In fact, the futures are trading with a discount of 16 points. So definitely the gains that one saw in the first half could be on back of short covering, but you can expect more volatility to come by in the last hour of trade. Just two stocks I want to highlight on back of good numbers. Nestle is one of the top F&O security for today's session. We've seen some short covering coming in for the February futures of Nestle as the open interest has been unwound there. In fact, on the cash side, this is not a very liquid counter, but today's volume on the cash side have been on the higher side. So do watch out for the delivery data because the numbers were pretty good. On the short side, Punjab National Bank for the second straight session is seeing huge amount of build-up. The traders are still looking at building fresh short positions at current levels of about 135, 14% higher there. I was looking at the options data. So the maximum OI concentration is at 130 put strike and the 150 call strike, which is giving you a near-term range for PNB. But remember, the 120 and 130 put strikes in today's session have seen lot of open interest additions. So 130 Neeraj remains a very critical mark for PNB. If it goes below that, probably there could be more writing which could come on the call side.
Well, let's wait and watch what happens thereof. But for now, let's get in an expert opinion. In fact, veteran market voice Rahul Singh, partner at Ampersand Investment Advisors, joins us right now on the show. Rahul, good afternoon. Thanks so much for speaking to us at Bloomberg Quint. No conversation today, or maybe yesterday, or maybe tomorrow, can start off without really paying reference to what's arguably unfolding as the biggest banking story, or maybe the biggest story of the quarter, arguably the year as well. What have you made of this, and the overhang that this puts, if it does? By the way, the PNB management is about to start addressing the media as well. But Rahul, your thoughts here very quickly on what does this do to the overall banking space, the PSU banking space, and maybe PNB too?
Well, I think this is just one of the other additional symptoms which we have been getting once in a while on how deep the malaise has been in the sector in terms of the lending practices. So I won't really make this as a big issue per se, but it just goes to say that just by the virtue of recapitalization, some of the things which have gone on over the last few years cannot get just corrected. So, one of the reasons why we are not bullish on PSU banks is precisely for that reason, that this has to be associated, recapitalization of bonds, recap bonds, etc., has to be associated with reforms in terms of how these banks are run.
Okay, yeah, that's a valid point too. Well, I think the PNB management is just about to get ready to speak to the media. I think we should cut across to this conversation.
After that, it is possible to take some questions that we'll see. So I solicit everybody's cooperation in this matter. This is a very sensitive matter. You have been helping us. The media has been helping us throughout. So we need your cooperation in this critical juncture. Thank you. Sir.
Oh, starting English. Okay. Please, I'll speak in both the language simultaneously. Okay, one by one. Have patience.
Yeah, please.
A very good afternoon to all of you. आप सबको यहाँ आने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. You are all aware that Punjab National Bank is a 123-year-old institution which has seen various ups and downs in the past and have come out with the flying colors. That's why we are the second largest lender of the country. आपको मालूम है पंजाब नेशनल बैंक 123 वर्ष पुराना बैंक है, जिसकी जन्म स्वदेशी आंदोलन के दौरान लाला लाजपत राय स्वतंत्रता सेनानी के द्वारा किया गया था. और पिछले 123 वर्षों में हम कई उतार चढ़ाव देख चुके हैं, जिसके अंदर पार्टीशन के समय आने वाली समस्याओं को भी बैंक ने बखूबी निपटा था. और आज हम दूसरे सबसे बड़े राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक के रूप में यहाँ पर उपस्थित हैं. मीडिया में आप लोगों को मालूम है कि रीसेंट इंसिडेंट्स जो फ्रॉड है, इसके बारे में काफ़ी चर्चाएं हो रही हैं. हम इस बारे में आपसे एक सहयोग चाहते हैं. आपको मालूम है कि जो बैंक इस समय अपनी पूरी क्षमता से गलत काम करने वाले लोगों को पे एक्शन लेने के लिए काम कर रहा है. यह जो फ्रॉड 2011 में शुरू हुआ था, इसको सबसे पहले हमारे ही बैंक ने डिटेक्ट करके और रेगुलेटरी एजेंसीज़ को लॉ इन्फोर्समेंट एजेंसीज को बताया। पीएनबी अपनी क्लीन बैंकिंग के लिए कमिटेड है। शायद इसीलिए वी आर द फर्स्ट वन टू डिटेक्ट एंड रिपोर्ट दिस टू द वेरियस लॉ इन्फोर्समेंट एजेंसीज। जैसे ही हमें इस घटना का पता चला, हमने उसकी जांच करी। वी हैव इन्वेस्टिगेटेड इट and even on the availability of the first available such incidents where we could verify these facts, we have gone to the law enforcement agencies to book the culprits and take strong legal action. You are fully aware that we have kept all the members informed about the developments. All the member banking sector, जो भी हमारे lenders हैं, हमने उन सबको इसमें इन्फॉर्म करके रखा है, उनको एडवाइजरी भी दी है। सबसे पहले हमने ही इसको डिस्क्लोजर नॉर्म्स के अंदर सेबी को भी बताया है। तो ये सब बातें हमारी क्लीन बैंकिंग का जो एजेंडा है, जो भारत सरकार ने हमें एक दायित्व सौंपा है, रिस्पॉन्सिबल एंड रिस्पॉन्सिव बैंकिंग, उसके अंतर्गत हम कार्रवाई कर रहे हैं। और हम देख रहे हैं कि जहाँ पे भी कोई ऐसी चीज़ हमारे सामने आती है, उसको हम बहुत स्ट्रांगली एक्शन उसके ऊपर लेके, चाहे वो कस्टमर हो, चाहे हमारा स्टाफ हो, इस सिस्टम को हम ठीक करेंगे। जहाँ तक बैंक का प्रश्न है, हमारे बैंक के पास आकार भी है और क्षमताएं भी हैं इस समस्या से निपटने की। द बैंक हैज़ द कैपेबिलिटीज़ एंड द कैपेसिटीज़ टू कम आउट दिस सिचुएशन। आपने आज के मीडिया कवरेज में देखा होगा कि हमारे द्वारा जो एफआईआर लॉन्च की गई हैं और जो कंप्लेंट लॉन्च की गई हैं डिफरेंट एजेंसीज़ को, उसके अंतर्गत आज भी जो इन्वॉल्व ग्रुप्स हैं उनके एस्टेब्लिशमेंट पे रेड की कार्रवाई की गई है। डॉक्यूमेंट्स को, रिकॉर्ड्स को सीज किया जा रहा है और बैंकों के फाइनेंशियल इंटरेस्ट को प्रोटेक्ट करने का प्रयास किया जा रहा है। एक बात मैं सहयोग आप सबसे बहुत ज़्यादा चाहूँगा। आपको भी लग रहा होगा कि हमने शायद मीडिया के सामने आने में देर क्यों करी। हम नहीं चाहते कि ये बहुत सेंसिटिव इशू है और हम ज़्यादा बात इस बारे में कह के जो डिफरेंट स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं उनकी जो सिविल और क्रिमिनल लाइबिलिटीज़ हैं उसको इफ़ेक्ट करें और हम इन्वेस्टिगेटिंग एजेंसीज़ के कार्य में बाधा बने। इसलिए हम आप सबसे ये रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहेंगे कि प्लीज़ गिव अस सम ब्रीदिंग टाइम, कि हम जो एक्शन प्लान हमने कर रखा है डिफरेंट एजेंसीज के माध्यम से कल्प्रिट्स को बुक्स में लाने का, बैंकों के फाइनेंशियल इंटरेस्ट को प्रोटेक्ट करने का, वो काम हम बखूबी कर सकें। एक चीज़ मैं आपको और बताना चाहूँगा कि हमारे बैंक ने सिर्फ कस्टमर पे ही शिकायत नहीं करी है, जो हमारा स्टाफ भी इसके अंदर इन्वॉल्व है। जो स्टाफ मेंबर मिस्टर शेट्टी और जो दूसरे क्लर्क उसमें इन्वॉल्व थे, दोनों को भी हमने क्रिमिनल कंप्लेंट का पार्ट बनाया है और जिनमें सुपरवाइजरी लैप्सेस में कमी रखी है उन स्टाफ पे भी हमने काफ़ी एक्शंस लिए हैं। कुछ एक को हमने सस्पेंड कर दिया है और बाकी हमारी जांच जारी है। ये बात मैं आपको दोबारा से बड़े विश्वास के साथ कहना चाहूँगा कि हम लोग किसी भी गलत काम को बढ़ावा नहीं देंगे और ये बात इससे भी सिद्ध होती है कि हमने इस चीज़ को सरफेस पे लेके आए। अगर कोई कैंसर है तो उसको डिटेक्ट करके दूर किया जाए। 2011 से जो बीमारी चल रही थी उसके कैंसर की सर्जरी के रूप में हमने इसे ठीक किया है और पीएनबी इज़ कॉन्फिडेंट एंड कमिटेड फॉर क्लीन बैंकिंग। वी विल कम आउट with the present situation. We are already in discussion with all the stakeholders, including the other banks who are a party to it. We will resolve it. We will honor all our bona fide commitments. हम अपने सभी bona fide commitments का honor करेंगे और हमारे जितने भी bankers हैं और साथी हैं या stakeholders हैं उनके साथ जो जो हमारे commitments हैं that we will be able to honor. Only thing we would like the enforcement agencies to do their job, to investigate the matter and come out the results, जिससे हम आपस में डिसाइड कर सकें कि यस व्हाट शुड बी द नेक्स्ट कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन। मैं यहाँ पर उपस्थित हमारे मीडिया के सभी साथियों को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद दे रहा हूँ जिन्होंने हमारे शॉर्ट नोटिस पे यहाँ आकर हमें ये मौका दिया, हमें अपनी बात कहने का, कि हम अपनी पोजीशन को क्लैरिफाई कर सकें। प्लीज़ कन्वे दिस मैसेज टू ऑल द स्टेक होल्डर्स दैट PNB is pursuing clean banking, responsive banking, and we will not shirk in our responsibility in putting all the customers or our staff to the task if we found any fraudulent or unethical practices are being performed in the bank.
Sir, Ruchi Bhatia from ET now. As we speak, sir, the RBI has said that PNB should pay the entire 11,300 crore rupees to counterparty lenders. What is the decision that PNB has taken on this matter?
जैसा कि मैंने आपको बताया, ये सब मैटर अंडर इन्वेस्टिगेशन है. We will see whatsoever is our responsibility and whatsoever regulator say, we'll definitely comply.
Sir, when did you come to know about this? You said, I'm sorry for not informing earlier, and you believe in clean banking. When did PNB come to know about this fraud? When did you detect it? And could you give us the timeline of when you went to the CBI, ED, and other enforcement agencies, law enforcement agencies? Please come clean on this because you're talking to your loyalty. Please come clean on
one by one, please.
Please, I will respond. Whatever I can respond, I will definitely respond. So, we detected in the third week of January, and we promptly investigated in the 3-4 days, and we have gone to the CBI on 29th.
On 29th of January?
29th of January. And the FIR was booked on 30th.
Isn't the rot actually much higher than the higher?
One by one, please.
Have you investigated involvement of senior officers in this particular case?
Sir, can you make it clear for the lay person as to what is the exact nature of misconduct? Are only foreign branches of Indian banks involved in it, or are there even foreign lenders involved in it? What is the nature of inappropriate messaging that happened out of your Mumbai branch? Where is the misconduct?
The misconduct I have already informed that 2 of our employees, in connivance with the few of the group companies of the 2 group, have undertaken some unauthorized and fraudulent transactions. That is what is we have already reported to the, and rest of the details we can give you only after the investigation is complete.
But are foreign lenders involved in it, or is it only foreign branches of Indian banks involved in it?
It's mainly foreign branches of Indian Bank, barring one case.
Will you also take legal recourse, sir, in this matter?
This is we have already initiated the process. We have conducted the consortium meetings because both the groups are dealing with a large number of banks. We have already informed the lenders during the consortium meetings. They are seized with the situation. We are working on the modalities. It will be too mature to permit you what are the legal actions we are going to take. But we are hands on it.
Yeah.
PNB saying that he's going to be paying back the amount that's one. Secondly, SEBI has asked you all to take action. What is the action that you are taking? And what have you informed SEBI as to what action you've taken so far?
Information to SEBI.
I think information to SEBI was given in time. Another issue, involvement, I think you all will agree, you can't say anybody unless and until the investigation process is complete. But yes, we will not spare anybody, may it be junior or may it be senior, we will take them to the task.
आपका ये कहा जाए कि नॉस्टो अकाउंट्स की बात हो रही है या आपका स्विफ्ट नेटवर्क की बात हो रही है, तो सारे में फेक पाया गया, एलओयू फेक पाया गया, तो ऐसे में किस तरह से आप क्लीन बैंकिंग की बात कर रहे हैं? और दूसरी बात, 800 करोड़ रुपया विजय माल्या का भी बकाया है, तो ये पहले से इस तरह की चीजें चल रही थी, आप लोग पहले सजग क्यों नहीं हुए?
मैं आपको 2 बात कहना चाहूँगा. एक बात जो आपने प्रश्न किया है कि स्विफ्ट नेटवर्क के बारे में, जब कोई एम्प्लॉई अगर हमारा फाइनेंशियल ट्रांजैक्शन करता है और कोई गलती करता है और वो सिस्टम जो है वो हमारे जो CBS सिस्टम के अंदर उसको एंटर नहीं करता है, तो उस तरह से वो गलती उसने फ्रॉडलेंट एक्टिविटी करी है और इसीलिए उसका नाम CBI में दिया भी गया है. So we have gone for that purpose only. Clean banking, what you are saying, what we mean is, if any unethical thing or any fraudulent activity made by staff, made by our customer, it comes to our notice, we will not leave anything to be book them for pursuing this agenda.
One by one. Madam, you have asked so many questions. Please.
It doesn't ask. Given in writing that he is ready to pay back the money.
Well, they have not come out with any concrete plan to repay so far, but they are coming out with some vague offers which are under examination.
Sir, is there any issue with the clinical system? Since what happened was that the transaction was recorded in the SWIFT messaging, but it didn't reflect in the CBS. So there's no integration between the two systems. So are you going to do anything to plug that loophole? Because only two branch officers, were involved in this whole.
We are examining all these system suspected. That is also under investigation. That what are the system problems? In case there are any system issues, we are going to correct it.
Pinnacle में कोई problem नहीं. Pinnacle में कोई problem नहीं.
No, Pinnacle, the person has not entered into the system. There is no problem with the Pinnacle. That much I can say.
Sir, don't you think that this is issues of governance? Will the bank take the entire liability?
Please one by one.
Sir, since the LOU was given by Punjab National Bank, will the entire liability also be of Punjab National Bank, or other banks will have to share this liability because it was a fraud LOU?
So that is one thing I told you in the beginning. We are already in discussion with all the lenders. It will be decided based on the investigation. If the entire onus is ours, we will hold the responsibility. We are not going back from it. But nobody else can be a beneficiary of it also.
So can the mark be higher than 11,000 crores?
Let me tell you one thing very categorically. When this came to our light in the third week of it, we have scanned all our branches. We have deputed our teams from inspection and audit department, and we have not been reported any such similar incidents in any other branch. This is a standalone incident in one of our branches.
Sir, how many LOUs were obtained?
मैनेजर रैंक के अधिकारी ही इशू करते हैं, उसमें और लोगों का भी इन्वॉल्वमेंट होता है.
ये तो I think name has already been given to you.
Yes, I think name has already been given. Whom we found are responsible. We have already booked them in the FIR, and rest of the things are under investigation.
How many LOUs were detected? How many Vijay Mallya वाले issue पे आपने लगा क्या इसमें Vijay Mallya का बिहार में कितना 800 करोड़ रुपया पहले वो?
नहीं वो please do not to link up the two issues. They are altogether different issues.
इंक्वायरी करते हैं कितना बड़ा मामला है और आप लोगों को इतना वक्त लग गया आपको ये मामला जानने में.
Be required to make entire 11,500 crores.
That will that
You now be required to make the entire 11,500 crore as provision in your accounts as per RBI norms, because RBI norm says once a fraud is detected, the entire 100% has to be provided for.
You are perfectly right, and I think you are fully aware of it, that right now this matter is under examination. We don't have any funded exposure as of now, but whatever is our liability that is worked out in the process of investigation, we will take it forward.
Sir, how many fake LOUs have been detected till now? Because the earlier complaint said 8, now it's more than that.
Actually, it will be difficult for me to give you any technical numbers right now. That is under investigation. Let it be fully established, and then we'll get back to you the technical data.
For so many years, 2011 to 2018, why did it take you 7 years to find something of 11,000 crores? Didn't you, in your balance sheet for the last 3-4 years, somewhere it should have, triggered? Shouldn't there have been a question? Don't you have your normal audits that take place? How did you allow? And you have to answer to your shareholders as well as to the people who is lending. How did you not do it for the last 7 years? This is the scam of the highest order, 11,000 crores.
Was it detected through the asset quality review of
You have an audit system.
Was it internally detected?
It was internally detected. When the customer came for renewal of an LOC, we found that it has not been entered into a system. Then our new team staff sitting there, they raised an alarm that it is not in the system, and that was the started bank. That was on the 25th of January. That was on the 25th of January.
So before that, from 2011 till 25th January, 5th of January, you all had no checks and balances within your system from internal audit systems to show up in PNB that such a fake LOUs racket was taking place.
It was...
One by one, please.
Just try to understand. LOU, it's a letter of undertaking, not funded liability. When it was not entered into CBS, it could not reflect.
So there was no internal audit within the system.
Does that mean going forward, PNB will take a forensic audit to ensure and see that such incidents do not take place in the future?
Let me tell you one thing, we conduct usually forensic audit where we have a doubt that fraud has been committed or not committed and let it be unearthed. Now this is a thing which is already documented, which is so we may not require it, but if there is need be, we may go for it.
But these were employees who are still with the bank till a certain date, right? For 7 years. So will you conduct forensic audits on those accounts where they were involved in issuing the loan or LOU?
Yes, we are examining all these aspects.
Other banks are involved in this.
Your letter to other banks, you have written it was the violation of RBI's guideline of 90 days. And it was the mistake on the part of branches of other banks as well as your bank. So since 2011, so who is responsible? Because it is the innocence of the customer that he came back. So that's how we understand.
If you call innocent customer this time, I think I have nothing to say. I have nothing to say.
How many banks do you think are impacted?
I think you will get it later on.
Try to understand, please. This matter is still under investigation. We have not received any direction from RBI in the matter, but they are our regulator. Whatever direction they will give, we'll definitely comply.
Have you been questioned by the CBI today?
I am a complainant. I am going myself to support my case.
How many banks are involved, sir? How many banks are involved?
I would not like to give you the most technical detail that I told you in the beginning for the simple reason. Till everything is freezed and properly investigated, please help us and bear with us. We are confident. We are confident. It won't. The quantum has. We have done our homework. Quantum has already been put in this CBI SEBI site also. That is the maximum involvement we could find so far. We have scanned all our branches also. So there is this is a standalone case in one of our branches. We have got such one of our branches, and we have scanned other branches also. There is nothing as of other.
Will you confirm whether ED has raided the branch concerned today?
Well, reports are yet to receive to me, and I think maybe we are just whatever I'm listening is listening from the media only. Reports, etc.
I think couple of I think two last questions, please.
And will the government bail out, sir? Has the government reached out to the government for a bailout?
Actually, let me tell you one thing. The one question about recovery. So we have already initiated the process. The ED is also seizing the properties, seizing the current assets, and we hope a good amount will be able to recover. We are already in the mode of recovering, and we are trying to protect the financial interest of all the lenders.
Sir, is the main accused, has he come before you since 25th of January, and is he in the country?
He has not come to us personally. We have requested him to come personally to come and give us a written plan that how the way he is going to make out the government.
When did you ask for repayment plan from him? Repayment
plan, he gave us a formal message and we said, okay, you come out with a plan and we'll meet. It was recently. Maybe last week. Last week. It's a technicalities. These are technicalities. Let the investigation agency do their job. Because there may be a lot of clues which are still not available. So let us.
CBI has already said in a public statement that PNB is the only bank which is liable to pay us money and not the client.
I have nothing to comment on the statement of others.
I'm not able to understand one thing, sir. You are saying that you negotiated with the prime accused after filing a...
No, not negotiated. Not negotiated.
I mean, you had a...
They said, I want to come back and pay you the amount. I said, welcome. Because anybody, it's a funny... Yes.
From abroad, you said you wanted...
Not called.
Mailed.
Not called. They mailed. They mailed and we said you come back with the plan.
Why are you classifying the amount of 11,400
Yes.
crore as a contingent liability? Why are you classifying the amount of 11,400 crore as a contingent liability?
Contingent liability because LOU has not been converted into funded transactions so far. So it is a contingent liability, but contingent liability is not an important issue because this matter we will decide based after the completing the investigations.
The CBI contingent liability when you didn't even know that these LOUs were issued, right? So how can the transaction be recorded? The fraud is that LOUs were issued without the consent of the bank, right? So how can you say it has been recorded in your books? It was never recorded in your books.
That's why I'm telling. That's why I'm telling.
It will never be a contingent liability.
It will be only if the investigation process say it is your liability, we'll accept it.
So, sir, how much money has gone out of the bank?
Nothing has gone out.
And is this amount likely to increase?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, but then let the investigation be completed.
1 second, let him finish saying what he's saying, yeah.
I think.
Yes, I think I've given you all the details, and please bear with us till we complete the entire process.
Apart from this LOU, is there further exposure that you have to the people who were named in the FIR, including some people who are MDs of other entities? How much would be the total exposure apart from the LOU?
The total exposure, I don't have data right now, but then we have credit exposures in these two groups also.
How much would that be, sir?
Credit exposure, our bank's credit exposure. Our bank credit exposure to these groups will be roughly 1,700.
Roughly 1,700.
These two groups.
They are already.
You can add it. I'll reserve it till the investigation is complete.
Now, are you hopeful with the negotiation you have had on the email exchange?
We did not have any negotiation. Please understand.
Conversation.
They sent an email. We said you come out with a plan. I will listen. That's all.
And you're confident that some plan will come in terms of thing.
It depends upon their response. No? It depends upon their response.
I think we are through. Anybody? Last question. Last question.
Last question.
Yes, yes. The government of India is seized with the situation. They are monitoring on day-to-day basis, and we are getting the full support in booking the culprits.
So was there any security given by these two companies because of the extension that was given of 11,400 crores? It's the biggest scam in the history of banking in the last 1 decade.
You are fully aware. It's a recent incident which is still under investigation, and
was there any security given by Nipun?
not so far. Not so far.
Was there any security given, sir?
For this, no security is given.
Sir, what kind of vague offers? You said that you have not accepted the vague offers from Modi. What were the vague offers which have given by them?
I think it's a subject matter which has got a lot of legal implications. So I would like to reserve it post investigation.
So what is the government's view so far, sir, on this matter? Are you the finance minister directed you anything that we should be doing?
I think the finance ministry is very seized with the situation. They are coming on heavily in support of the booking to the culprits, and they are strongly pursuing the clean banking agenda, and we are executing it in our letter and spirit.
I think Allahabad Bank or Axis Bank के अलावा कोई और बैंक
Sorry, I can't answer any more technical questions. Thank you.
Well, that's an explosive press conference if there was one. The management was fairly calm, yes, but I want to bring out a few points that they mentioned. One, the stock of PNB has cracked. I think was down 10% midway through the conference. Should come up right now on your screen, about 9% down. This follows the 9%, 10% downtick that we saw in yesterday's session as well. And the volumes are a giveaway, the quantum of trading action that's happening here. Now, he did mention, I heard the management say that they've not received any direction from the RBI as yet. But I think 2 or 3 things that stood out. One, they gave out the timelines, of course, saying that the fraud was detected in the 3rd week of Jan. They went to the CBI on the 29th of Jan, and they are in discussion with all stakeholders. But they mentioned that they will honor all the bona fide commitments, so that is one. More importantly, I think there were some numbers in the media which were talking about how the numbers could well be northwards of the 11,000 crore number being put out as well. I think he put to rest some of those things because he mentioned that the maximum number possible has been put out in the media, and he didn't believe that the number would be beyond that. So that was one more thing that he did mention. amongst others. They, of course, on almost all key questions, he did mention that he doesn't want to talk more about the sensitive issue because they don't want to complicate matters, and they request shareholders to give the bank time to give conclusion to the ongoing investigation. On most questions, really, that was the answer. In moments from now, Ira will join in as well, of course, to talk about her thoughts through this. But suffice to say, this may not really enthuse any stakeholders or investors in a meaningful way until we get some more conclusions out here. Okay, Hemendra Azari will be joining us moments from now as well. In fact, I'm told that he joins in. So just before we get in, Ira, just get an initial thought from Hemendra Azari as well. Hemendra, what do you make of this whole saga? And if you got the chance to hear the management give out all these comments, otherwise you already heard me. I spoke about a few things that they said.
You see, one important thing which he has told at the press conference is that the other banks are all now wondering where does the liability lie. And what he's effectively telling everybody, and this is what I understood, is until only the investigation will determine who has got this liability, who has got this contingent liability. Now, at least to me, from what little I know, is that once a SWIFT message has gone from their system, and the bank has an LOU outstanding, the entire liability is on PNB. I think that is what the banks and what news media reports I have read, that the banks are naturally quite upset that PNB is now saying that it will let the investigation determine where the ultimate contingent liability will lie. So I think that is it, because now the question mark comes that all these exposures, which are also on other banks, now the market should be concerned, because now they are saying it's only until the investigation will come out will that contingent liability be revealed. Now this is what I've understood from his press meet, which has just concluded.
Okay, Ira joining in as well. Ira, I don't know, in between rushing back to office and hearing the press conference, but if you got a chance to hear what they were saying,
I did.
What did you make
thanks
of it?
to the Bloomberg Quint Live webcast. Little bit of a plug there for our own service on Twitter. No, but on a serious note, Neeraj, I don't think I got any more answers from him. I mean, yes, he said that this is the number, 11,000 crore is the number that they think is the maximum number. So it puts to rest all that speculation that was going on. But, questions that he could not answer. How did this go on since 2011? He said this started in 2011. How did it go on since 2011? How is it that nobody in the bank noticed that these LOUs were being generated without adequate approval? How many LOUs were generated? One number doing the rounds in the market is that as many as 300 LOUs may have been generated. How did that happen? If these, contingent liabilities were being generated based on the LOUs issued by the bank, where were those contingent liabilities getting reflected in the bank's books? Were they reflected in the bank's books? If they were reflected in the bank's books, did the bank management take note of this sudden rise in contingent liabilities? Were they not at all getting reflected in the bank's books? I didn't hear answers to any of those questions. I think some of the people tried asking them those questions, but they didn't give you any clear answers. So I don't think that the press conference managed to do very much except to state that, look, we have found this now and, let's give the current management its due. For example, the current chairman has been in the seat for, I think, 7-8 months. If this has been going on for a very long time. So yes, as soon as they have found out, they have brought this out. But what was happening in this interim period? I think those answers have to be given. And then he kept saying that after the investigations, we will know what our liability is. And I think we have a story, Vishnath has put up a story on BloombergQuint.com as well. The bankers on the other side, the counterparties, are saying that there is no question. According to us, PNB is liable to pay. So till this investigation gets completed, who is taking the hit? Is it PNB that's going to take the hit? Is it the counterparties that are also going to take the hit till a final conclusion is arrived at as to where the fraud was and hence who is liable? I don't think we got any answers, Neeraj.
Yeah, and he mentioned that they haven't heard anything from the RBI as well. Hemendra, do you have any thoughts here? I mean, what would the ideal scenario be? Because as of now, it's not clear as to if the hit is 11,000 crores, who will be taking the hit?
No, to me, in my mind, I am very clear that if the letter of understanding has been issued by Punjab National Bank, if it has been recorded in the SWIFT, which it appears to have been, then the liability is on Punjab National Bank. Because now if tomorrow you determine that the other banks also have to, the liability should rest with them, that the whole sanctity of the SWIFT, the whole sanctity of letters of understanding is going to be up in question, and banking in all these activities will freeze, because then no one will know whether that bank has done the cross-check, because once you enter SWIFT itself, there's a lot of verification has to be done by various authorities within the bank for it to enter the SWIFT system. Now, if you're saying if PNB stance is that, some junior level employee has access to SWIFT and he can do all this, it's a very shocking admission that the internal controls at PNB in this particular branch is pathetic.
Hemendra, was the SWIFT account not connected to the core banking system? As you rightly mentioned that one of the employee entered wrong details of the client. In that case, shouldn't that have been highlighted if the SWIFT account would have been connected to the core banking system?
I think some earlier media reports indicated that for their contingent liabilities, it was not integrated into their core banking, system, which itself is a big loophole. Now, having this loophole, you must constantly be auditing because the SWIFT data also has to be regularly audited and the accounts have to be reconciled. Now, what is so horrifying in this case is that for 10 years this has been going on. Your accounting system is not reconciling what your SWIFT messaging system is telling you. The internal audit, all the transactions have to be audited by internal auditors, by the branch auditor, by the external auditor. Now, has all this failed? See, this is where the seriousness of this lies and the lengthy period of time that this has been happening.
True. Point well taken. Hemendra, many thanks for joining us on such a short notice. Appreciate you being with us today. Now, that's one view. Ira, you would believe that the natural view, and again, okay, let's not preempt, but in all probability, PNB said that they haven't received any course of direction from the RBI, but whatever there is a regulator, obviously, whatever the regulator tells them, they'll have to do. But they mentioned that they will honor all the bona fide commitments. You would probably presume that this would mean that the whole will have to be filled by PNB.
Yeah, I'm not clear over what period of time, because I think somewhere in the press conference he said that we'll wait for the investigations to complete and then whatever the findings are, based on that we'll make good on the liability. So I don't know what period of time. That's my only question. I don't know that they will do it immediately, especially since, in that letter that, has been doing the rounds since yesterday, part of it is replicated on BloombergQuint.com as well. They seem to raise the specter of involvement from the other bank end as well. So some staff members in overseas branches, may have been involved. That is what PNB is suggesting. So if it is proven that there is fraud at both ends, at the PNB end and the counterparty end, does some of the liability then shift to the counterparty? I don't know. So my question simply is, over what period of time will that hole be filled? Until then, where will it show?
Right.
That is not clear to me yet.
Okay, just before we get in, Deepak Shenoy, one final question really, Ira. It's one thing that stood out thrice in the press conference when asked about who else, aside of the banks mentioned, which are already known, are parties to this. He just refrained from giving out any other names. Could it be essentially to help the investigation, or could there be something more to this?
Well, he doesn't want to be the one giving out names, but I think, given the size of, the whole 11,000 crore, I would be surprised if there are too many banks who are outside the purview of this. Some would have very small exposures possibly, but there would be a fair number of banks which would have some exposure to take. But again, I don't think we should say that this is all money that they are going to lose. We don't know who's going to lose the money. As Hemendra was also saying, on basic understanding, the liability lies with PNB.
Deepak Shenoy, Capital Mind, joins us on the show. Deepak, what do you make of this whole saga? I don't know if you got a chance to hear this press conference, but if you did, the implications of this for stakeholders of PNB and specifically shareholders of PNB as well.
Afternoon, Neeraj. I was unfortunately not able to listen to the whole thing, but I'm getting news from all angles. But so the basic point is this: there is a line of credit which is unfunded exposure. Contingent, in the sense the loans that they have taken, Mr. Nirav Modi and perhaps whoever was mentioned else, they have been taken from entities, from banks who gave it on the counter guarantee of PNB. So till now, there was no reason for PNB to actually pay up, because apparently those loans have been current. Obviously, they would have, if they were not current, then they would have come into some kind of an RBI framework. They are, at this point, it seems like they're not NPAs with the other banks. It could be Allahabad Bank, or it could be ICICI Bank, or whoever. But now that this fraud has come to light, it seems to be that they've all decided to call back their loans and therefore fall up on the contingent liability that PNB has, and therefore PNB has to pay. So there is a significant impact on the balance sheet. This is going to need them to raise capital to bring their capital ratios back. They're going to have to perhaps spread this frauded amount, whatever it eventually comes about, over maybe 6 to 8 quarters. But it still means that the results are going to be bad for the significant future. Given the RBI, I think, directive for PNB to take it and not to default on that obligation, that may actually have to go through some cycles, because there may be some illegalities in their assuming certain types of credit will last more than 180 days and so on. But having said that, this is very negative for PNB, but also very negative for the rest of the banking system, not because just this. There's a significant move will happen for all guarantee holders, which is banks by themselves, to find out what lies behind and whether the end user has now tried to get more credit than the LC actually reflects in the core banking system books and so on. This will open a whole new bunch of, a whole new can of worms. And there are a lot of can of worms in the banking system.
Deepak, it took almost 7 years to unearth this fraud, so to say, of 11,000 crore, and the benefit which everybody started speaking about for the PSU banking space post recapitalization, now that seems to be wiped out completely, isn't it?
Yes, this was never going to be enough. I mean, I was of the opinion that this was only about halfway or 1/4 way to complete recap. I think one of the things we have to learn from this is really that this current system is not going to just get fixed by blind recapitalization. You have to find out people who are doing these frauds. We don't know their names. Everywhere else, industrialist names are, mentioned everywhere, saying, this industrialist did this fraud and all that stuff. We don't even know the names of the bankers who seem to be involved. I think, we have to give some kind of punitive penalties both to the bank and to, this thing. And we have to also, merge banks or shut their operations down, remove that management from the entire scene, merge the bank with somebody else, take over the deposits, that's fine. You can create a structure, but this is not really the way to run banking. According to me, longer term, this has a huge impact. We have to clean up the banking system. It will need a little bit of hit, but we're getting that hit anyway.
Okay. Deepak, much appreciate you being with us today. Thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking with us. That's Deepak Shenoy of Capital Mind with his thoughts. By the way, the Nifty Bank has given up all the gains. It was up 1%. It's lost all of those gains. And PNB, one of the principal culprits for the PSU Bank Index, is down about 12.5%. Before we get into Harihar and his thoughts, let's just get a trade perspective as well with Jay Bala, Chief Market Technician at CashTheChaos.com, joins us on the show. Jay, thanks so much for joining in. If you are brave enough to take or contemplate a trade on PNB, then that. Couple that up, of course, with your thoughts on how would you trade the Nifty Bank in particular, maybe the index as well.
Yeah, see, I'm pretty neutral on the index. I know it's going to chop around a bit, but I know there's two possibilities for the index. There are two cross currents. Basically, the European markets are saying the markets have actually done the correction, but whereas the US markets are saying the correction is incomplete. And it depends whether the European markets are going to pull up the rest of the world, or it's the US market that's going to take the markets a little bit down. So that's the reason why I'm a bit neutral on the index. So so it's better to avoid taking a trading call on the index. You're better off trading close to supports, which are placed around 10,300 on the Nifty and about 23,600 on the Bank Nifty. So we're not close to it, so the risks are a bit high. So it's better to go to individual stocks. As you asked for PNB, I think PNB has broken important support at about 138. So it's again an avoid. Maybe you can even trade a sell, but that's not the kind of risk I would like to take. But there are easier strategies here which are much more risk-free. And if you look at something like a Bajaj Finance, it had a fantastic performance up till September 2017. But September 2017 onwards, it's been chopping around from the highs, and that chop is a very clear corrective pattern because it's overlapping. And we like such a pattern, and it's come to a very important support at 1517, which is a perfect Fibonacci retracement for us. And I think it's starting the next leg of its up move, and it's presenting a low risk entry point, and I think it's likely to take out record highs past 2200. So that being the case, the current levels are very attractive. You place a stop below 1510 and try to position yourself for the next 8 to 12 weeks in this stock, so that it can climb this record highs past 2200. There's another strategy. Today we saw a metal stock like Vedanta Hindalco doing well, and there's a stock called Prakash Industries, which is in mining and metals. So this is also had a very steep run between August and January, and the recent pullback is perfectly on the 50% Fibonacci retracement again, and once again that's presenting a low risk entry point. I think it's going to once again go to 300, and given that it's about where it is at this point of time, it's a low risk compared to the risk it's compared to the rewards it's providing. So I would like to be long in these two counters, and I think even if the markets were to come down, I think these two counters are likely to outperform the market.
Markets are coming off as we speak, by the way. Just keep that in mind. We very now return to almost flat levels for the Nifty 50. There's a sharp slide that has happened in the markets in the last few minutes of trade. Just a quick perspective from TS Harihar Johnson as well. Hari, thanks for joining in. The question is from a perspective of somebody who has PSU banks in his kitty. Now, would you escape out of all PSU banks? Would you escape out of some PSU banks? If you had PNB in your portfolio, what would you be doing?
See, if I had PNB, I think PNB currently is actually close to its 52-week low, or probably it's just breached its 52-week low. So I think if you want to exit PNB, it's probably too late. Niro, my understanding is that whatever we have seen in the case of this PNB issue, it's not unique to PNB alone. There is a much larger systemic issue where there are PSU banks, there are private banks, because if there has not been an appropriate audit conducted of the entire SWIFT transaction end to end, and the audit trail people are not bothered to look at it at various levels, I think there's a very major systemic problem. So I wouldn't believe it's a problem with PNB alone. So I don't know why PNB has been battered so much in the last 2 days. It's actually a systemic problem for the PSU banks per se. So honestly, if I was a trader and I was looking at PNB at these levels, I would suggest go in and buy this stock. If you are already long, then you can look to average at these prices. But I would believe the worst is over for PNB, because whatever we are seeing on PNB is actually a systemic issue for Indian banks per se. There are larger issues the RBI needs to address, the external auditors need to address. Whether we are having more cases like Pricewaterhouse in the past, who have just gleaned over some very important facts. I think there's a lot of issues that are going to come up.
You are willing to buy PNB with this overhang of the 11,000 odd crore liability, contingent liability that is there on the books?
No, let's understand one thing, Neeraj. 11,000 crores is not a liability for PNB. Because what has happened is some officers in PNB have issued an LOU. Now, issuing an LOU makes you a contingent partner, not an actual partner in the trade. The loan has actually been given out by Axis Bank and Allahabad, or whatever the banks were given to the external branch.
The LOU is PNB's, Hari.
I agree. But my contention is that, and what I understand from the banking perspective is that, an Axis or an Allahabad bank is required to do its own due diligence about the veracity of these documents before giving such a large amount. It's not a small amount. It's nearly $2 billion. So when $2 billion are given out, I think purely based on a SWIFT record, I think there should have been a greater level of due diligence. In fact, banking calls for a greater level of due diligence, which I believe has not been done in this case.
That's failed at every level with every bank.
You are right. It has actually failed at too many levels. So it would be inappropriate to say that PNB alone is wrong. Yeah, obviously there are faults in the system, but there are faults in the system everywhere. There is a fault system in the SWIFT, in the way private banks are operating, in the way other PSU banks are operating. I think it's a much larger issue. So I wouldn't just put the entire blame on PNB's head. See, people tell me that 11,000 crores is about 1/3 of their market cap, because PNB has a market cap of 35,000 crores. But I think that's not the right way to look at it, because this is not PNB's problem alone. I agree they've issued the LOU, but that does not make them entirely liable. The other banks who are giving the loan are required to use their own due diligence, which I believe has not been done in this case.
Okay. Faikal, there's a market beyond PNB. We've done this now for the last 40 minutes. Let's also talk about some of the other things. By the way, the index mildly in the green, yes. Not too many losers on the Nifty, I must say. In fact, there are more gainers than losers, and strong ones at that. Hindalco and Vedanta are bucking the trend throughout the day. ICICI Bank is probably at the highest point of the day, if I'm not wrong, 2.5% higher, and Infosys too is contributing. So there is a set of stocks which are actually, okay, ICICI is not at the highest point of the day, but still doing well, and Infosys too marginally in the green. Vishvesh Chauhan, head of quant research at Monarch Networth, joins us on the show. Vishvesh, is there an index strategy that you have that, and maybe a Nifty bank strategy if you have one, and couple that up of course with your stock specific ideas for the afternoon?
So I think what Neeraj right now happening is that implied volatility across the stocks have gone higher, and the one trade which we had, and we've been very vocal in, stating to your channel as well, was to short volatility. Somewhere I believe that the sanity will come. Right now the market is, paying too much attention to this news flow. In my opinion, somewhere I agree to what, Hari said. I think from a medium perspective, PNB around $100, up to 5-10 rupees here and there would be an excellent buy, irrespective of what, the outcome may come. My guess is that somewhere the stocks are going to be, come to radar of the people who are looking for a value buy. Now, as far as the index is concerned, what I would like to, go ahead with the strategy is that 10,600 straddle and 10,500 straddle for the next month, which is a March month. So basically, we have a backtested data that if you sell a 45 days to expiry straddle, then you have a 60% chances of losing is 30 to 40% value in next 10 to 15 days. So what it means that even if it's a time eroding game, and what may happen that index may consolidate here and there, and in spite of banking being soft, I think index has managed very well. So my guess is that Reliance will come to rescue, HDFC will come to rescue, and index will not move, and for that matter consolidation will be there. So 10,600 straddle is somewhere around a 389, 390 mark. It becomes a very good short in my opinion at the current level. And as far as the bank Nifty is concerned, probably right now you are sitting at the support, and in my opinion, unless and until we break 25,000, I have a reason to believe that we'll move towards 26,000. So what I would like to go ahead is that I would like to create a ratio spread for the next expiry, which is buy a 25,500 call option and sell 2 or probably 3 lot of 26,000 call option, and you will create some credit into your account, and you may want to hold it. My guess is that you are likely to see 2 to 300 point recovery further in the bank Nifty.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the call on Nifty and Bank Nifty. And as we speak, let's just pull up the India Volatility Index. Remember, at one point of time, it was down 6 to 7%, but that's cooled off from day's low. VIX is still down about 4%, but it's definitely off day's low. But other than that, there's a sharper fall that has been seen in the broader market indices. If you could just pull up the Nifty Mid Cap as well as the Nifty Small Cap Index, both of them have seen sharp cuts. And as we speak, almost at day's low for Nifty Mid Cap, down 1.2%. The Nifty Small Cap Index has seen greater cuts of about 1.7%. But Neeraj, you know what? There is one stock which has been bucking the trend not only this week, not only today, but for the week. TTK Healthcare is now locked in upper circuit with gains of 20%, and for this week alone now, the stock has seen gains of nearly 40%.
Wow. So that's an exception to the rule, because the rule is there's a lot of pain at the broader end of the spectrum. Before we hit that break, REC down 7.5%, Repco Home Finance 7%, Prism Cement down 6%, Ipca Labs down 6%, Jet Airways down 6%, Minda Corp is down 6%. I'm getting tired of using the term 6% as well. But Bhushan Steel is the other one which is down almost 6% in trade. The clutch of names which have fallen quite strongly. Intellect Design about 5.5% too. So the broader end of the spectrum is in a bit of pain. HCL Info, yesterday's top mover, is down about 5.5% too. So clutch of mid-cap names down currently in trade. Let's take a quick break on that note. On the other side of the countdown, having discussed PNB at length, we'll talk about some of the other stocks. And on a day like this, talk about some of the Fab 4 stocks as well. Tell you what dealing rooms are recommending in the session today. And some closing thoughts from all our experts. Mayuresh, Joshi too, Johnson on the other side.
Welcome back. You're still watching Countdown with us. And Bank Nifty has given up all its gains for the day. 25,345 is the level where it currently trades. Today is also the day for the Bank Nifty weekly options expiry. But remember, the weakness that one has seen for the benchmarks, that's primarily because of the weakness that we've seen in the PSU banking lot, and PNB, that's been the stock of the day. That's seen cuts of over 10 to 12% now. And as we speak, some bit of recovery from day's low for the Nifty PSU banking pack, which is trading with cuts of almost, PNB is trading with cuts of nearly 11 to 12%. But from the private banking space, since morning, ICICI Bank has been finding some strength. And Jay, I'd like to come to you on the charts. ICICI Bank around the levels of 327. Does it warrant any sort of fresh positions here?
See, ICICI Bank is slightly an outperformer here, but it needs to go past 380. But given the current market conditions, I don't know how it's it's doing better than its peers, but I don't know if it has the strength. So I'm a bit cautious on the banking space. We want one more dip to come through. Once that's through, I think we can be more bullish on ICICI. I think if it were to drop slightly below 310 and come somewhere close to 300, it'll be a decent buy. But at these levels, I'm a bit skeptical. Not that I'm bullish on the market. It has pending price objectives beyond 380, but we just want to be a bit more cautious at these levels.
Okay, so stay cautious at these levels with regard to ICICI Bank. That's the call that is coming in. But in a market like this, where there's a sell-off seen in the broader markets and the benchmarks too have come off days high, let's get you the Fab 4 stocks of the day. And to take us through the same as usual, Yash Upadhyaya joins us. Yash, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon, Navneet. So, Endurance Tech reported a good set of numbers. The stock is up about 5.5%. Their revenues, adjusted for excise, grew almost 20%, while their EBITDA saw almost a 25.5% growth on a year-on-year basis. Margins too seeing a healthy expansion. So, all in all, a good set of numbers, and the stock is up in trade today. Nestle India had gained close to 6% today, the highest in nearly 6 months after CLSA upgraded their recommendation on the stock from accumulate to buy, and also set a target price of 8,950 rupees, which roughly translates to an upside potential of almost 18% from its previous day's close. Safari Industries is up about 2.5–3%, but it surged almost 6% today after Malabar India Fund hiked their stake in the company from its existing 5.9% and acquired almost close to 6 lakh shares, or almost 2.6% equity in the company. Ronnie Screwvala being the other marquee investor who has picked up close to 1.3% stake via Bud deal yesterday. And finally, we also have Shree Cements. The stock has surged almost 4.5% today after the company said that it has commissioned a new cement grinding unit in Udaipur, having a capacity of almost 3.6 million tons per annum. Back to you.
All right, Jayesh. Thanks, Yash, for bringing us all the details with regard to the Fab 4 stocks of the day. But let's get in another voice. Mayuresh Joshi, fund manager at Angel Broking, is joining us on the show now. Hi, Mayuresh. Good afternoon, and thanks a lot for joining us today. Would you use this correction that one has seen in the PSU banking lot for 2 straight sessions to buy into anything?
Afternoon, Navneet. So largely, I think what is transpiring with the PNB case at this point of time, and again the new NPA norms which have come through, along with the kind of provisioning that is still required to be done in Q4 for the NCLT cases, and the standard provisioning where the aging related provisioning is mandated as well. I think the stress in terms of providing on PSU bank balance sheets might very well continue. Couple that up with what you probably received or are expected to receive from the bank recapitalization mode. I think this is probably going to offset, and the entire focus of all PSU managements is probably going to be more in terms of recovery and upgrades, at least for the next quarter or two. So large element is that we had remained very, very constructive on the top tier banks. State Bank was one of our favorites. But again, I think looking at numbers, I think the cleaning up exercise is still going to take time. So I think the painful exercise might continue for all these stocks. But again, I think SBI is something that we will continue to prefer. So I think investors holding on to SBI should continue holding.
Okay. Some charts which are looking very, very wobbly. Aside of course, PNB, I'm choosing a couple of financial names. One of them is Repco Home Finance, which is now down 7%. I'm clubbing REC out there as a name out there, but down about 7% as well. So 2 names which are looking slightly weak in addition to a clutch of others. Vishvesh, any thoughts here, particularly REC?
I think in a very shorter term, Neeraj, what is happening is that some of these stocks are again coming back to the lows which were there in the time of December last year. My sense is that in a very shorter term, around 140, stock is a very, very major support. And I think if it breaches marginally, if it goes to 136, I'll be very keenly observing. Apparently, I'm not implying that this is going to, either hold or probably it will bounce from that. I'm saying that I have seen in past that stocks which gradually declines from a level of 200 to come down to 130, and over there, again and again support comes up. Often it turned out to be a very major, medium-term bottom. Over there, I would have to observe what happens with the market. But somewhere I have a reason to believe that stock is offering you a very, very large correction, and probably it is the, pullback of the previous move which I had, and from a retracement perspective also it is standing at the golden ratio. So I'm not very sure as to why I would want to, jump to exactly in terms of where it might support. So to, sum it up, my conclusion, around 135 is probably you have to think contrarian in terms of buying.
BOB2 is now under a bit of pressure, down about 4% in trade. So while the private banks may not be facing that, public sector banks certainly facing more pressure. BOB is down 4, IDBI 3.5, Hari, that's down another 3.5%. Surprise, surprise, Canara Bank, OBC are in the green, and SBI is marginally in the green. But PNB clearly the leader of the pack and continues to grind lower. There's a broader market cool off that has happened in today's session, Hari. Clutch of names out there. If you have any thoughts here, Jet Airways, not that bad an upset of numbers either, but down about 6%. Cement has been looking largely okay, but Prism Cement is down. Minda Corp, not a bad quarter, down about 7%. It seems to be a bit of a return to profit booking, a bit of a sell-off coming in.
I think a couple of things are playing out. Jet Airways is a different ball game. I think it was the second consecutive quarter they reported a fairly disappointing results, and with oil at around $60-70 range, I don't think that arbitrage that investors got on Jet Airways, I think that doesn't exist any longer. So I think Jet, it has rallied too much. Probably it needs to come back to saner levels. I think among the other stocks there appears to be some kind of a churn going on. I think the churn is broadly this way. A lot of quality names also came down along with the other stocks. So I think there is some kind of a money that is shifting out of mid caps, that is shifting out of what I call highly speculative stocks. And I think it's getting, Minda could probably fall into that category. Fairly speculative, a fairly sharp rally. I think it's kind of money is going out of these stocks back into certain quality stocks, which corrected quite sharply in the last few days along with the whole market. So I would not read too much into that. But I think Jet is probably a little more fundamental in nature. There is a structural problem with the aviation industry. 18% growth annualized is great news. But I think if oil is at $60 to $70 a barrel, I don't think aviation companies are going to be as great as they were 1 year back.
Okay. 3:10, that time of the show when we should tell you what should be getting in and out of the F&O ban in tomorrow's session. And Navneet, is it possible to give out a list?
Just one stock, Neeraj. Watch out for Jain Irrigation. This counter came out of the F&O ban day before yesterday. And we've seen a lot of open interest build up in the last two sessions for Jain Irrigation futures specifically. And in fact, as you can see, the overall open interest as a percentage of market-wide position limit as of yesterday was almost about 93%. And today's data indicates both on the futures as well as a couple of option strike that it may just surpass the 95% mark, which is required for the stock to enter into the ban. So watch out for Jain Irrigation definitely for tomorrow's session, Neeraj.
A bit of a chalk and cheese. I'm stuck to banks and financials today, sadly. Axis Bank and ICICI Bank. ICICI Bank right now trading at the highest point of the day. Really good going there. Jai Bala, before we thank you, I understand we'll have to let you go. But a thought on both of these, ICICI versus Axis?
Yeah, these are the better names within the banking space. And as I said earlier, ICICI has a pending price objective past 380. But I would like a setup to be perfect and risks to be quite low. Just the point that the risks aren't that low at this point of time. That's the only reason why I'm not bullish on ICICI today. But if it were to drop a little bit further, say something like 6-7%, it'll make an excellent buy. And Axis, we were bullish and we expected it to reach 650, but it's dropped off from 625. So we are more neutral on Axis rather than bullish on Axis. But it's a good possibility that it's going to go back and retest those highs it made at 625, maybe even overshoot it a slightly bit. But the way it's chopping around and the way it's sharply pulling back from highs, we don't like that kind of volatility. We want low risk entry points.
Okay. Thanks for that, Jay. Stay on. We'll get in your closing strategies as well in moments from now. Couple of other names. So we've spoken enough about losers. Let's talk about some stocks which are doing well. The Nifty Bank, by the way, is up about 1/3%. So back from the brink, was almost or broke into the red and has come back into the green in the last 15 minutes of trade. But Bombay Dying up for, I think, the 4th consecutive session, if I'm not wrong, or maybe the 8th session actually. Bombay Dying, strong move, gains 44% in the last 8 sessions. That's a really, really strong move for this one. The other one, okay, let's talk about one stock at a time. Mayuresh, Bombay Dying, is there a fundamental call here? I mean, the real estate business is doing well. I don't know how easy it is to value that. And the garments business trying to come back from what has been a disappointing last few years. Can you fundamentally value Bombay Dying and, initiate an investment strategy here?
I mean, if you want to make a case out of it, I think Excel sheets can do the work for you. But largely, again, I think there has to be a strong justification in terms of strong numbers coming through, and that too on a consistent basis. So again, I think the land bank stories that can probably get divested for a lot of companies or the inherent value in terms of their core businesses is something to be monitored, not just for the past few quarters, but if the performance has been consistent, I think to extrapolate forward numbers becomes a lot more easier from an analyst point of view. So very difficult in the case of Bombay Dying, Neeraj, to probably fathom all these points together.
Okay, that's been a strong run for Bombay Dying. The other stock which is seeing a lot of strength in today's session on back of numbers has been Nestle. Mr. Harihar, the consumption theme, if you look at the numbers from the entire FMCG space, they've not disappointed in the December quarter. I know Nestle is not a very liquid counter, but any thoughts here?
No, I think you need to look at Nestle from a slightly longer perspective, about 2 years. When the entire controversy around Maggi started, and even at that point of time, we always felt it was a great consumption theme. Unfortunately, because the Maggi controversy came about and the stock kind of started gyrating in that 5,000, 6,000 range, I think it's a bit of catching up that the stock is doing. Finally the stock seems to be catching up. I think it has put its Maggi woes behind, and the stock is finally moving forward. So to us, it looks good. Slightly expensive, but then most of these consumption stocks are expensive. But we believe that stocks like Nestle could be a very kind of a de-risked bet in this kind of a market, especially in a market that is so volatile, where the VIX is showing an upward trend. We believe that Nestle could be a kind of a de-risked bet in this market.
If farmers can actually get in the ANR function on the Bloomberg terminal up on the screen, because on Nestle, and you will see that there's a clutch of upgrades that have come in for Nestle. Maybe some came in way before the numbers. Some of them will get reflected over the course of the next couple of days. But those green numbers, okay, we'll try and project them on the wall on close. But this arguably has turned out to be the FMCG stock of the afternoon. Interesting moves there. Not exactly a trading play, but definitely an investment play for sure. Okay, are we trying to put that on the terminal? Yes, we are. Let's just show there. And if you see the target prices of most of the top 5 or 6 names out there, wherein the upgrades have happened, overweight or a buy or an add, the target price is substantially higher. So there's a bit of an overweight stance that the brokerage community by and large seems to have given out on Nestle. But for a couple of names like Credit Suisse, which came out with a report today and maintained the target price at 5,600. Otherwise, most of the others seem to be doing okay. Anyways, this is on Nestle. Let's talk about what dealing rooms are recommending in the session today. And Darshan and Yatin join in with their channel checks. Gentlemen, good afternoon, both of you. Thanks for joining in. Yatin, let's start off with you first today. And what are you hearing from your sources?
Neeraj, of course, the market guys are slightly panicky after the PNB situation, and probably it can have a ripple effect on the banking system is what they are saying. So they are recommending staying away from the banking stocks. But Nestle, you're talking about the stock. domestic funds are said to be buyers in trade today. After the quarterly numbers and 7 years of stagnant volume growth, finally there is some growth and green shoot which can be seen, and of course brokerages have been quite bullish on this one. So domestic funds have started accumulating. Nestle is what dealing rooms are indicating at this point in time. Idbi Bank, this is one PSU stock which has been moving higher but has been now in trade today, has seen some profit taking, and dealers expect this trend to continue. So some bit of downside is what dealers expect in Idbi Bank, and probably that is the reason why they are recommending a HTBT kind of a strategy. And finally, the cash market segment, Muthoot Finance, this is one stock wherein dealers are indicating that HNIs are buyers at low levels. But Darshan has a few more stocks to talk about.
Yeah, so Yatin, one of the themes as such is the Nifty Bank and the banking stocks. No doubt after a big sell-off again, there's a sharp recovery. The Nifty Bank is up almost 100 points. But overall, there seems to be concern, as Yatin pointed out, among some of the banking names. Today being the weekly expiry, there is bound to be movement that will come in. But overall, there is caution on the Nifty Bank. One of the other counters that's been spoken about is Eicher Motors, which is up almost over 1% today. Some of the domestic mutual funds are actively accumulating the counter. They believe that the worst is over. Valuations after the big fall is now within attractive range. And finally, the last stock that dealers are talking about is Hexaware. There's a potential, there's a buzz of a potential block deal that can happen over the next few weeks on Hexaware. So that is something that dealers are watching about for.
All right, Darshan as well as Yatin, thanks a lot for bringing that dealing room check for us. But as we speak, as Darshan already highlighted, that there has been a bit of recovery which is coming for Bank Nifty. It's now trading with gains of nearly 100 points. Remember, it had given up all the gains, so currently off days low for Bank Nifty. Weekly options contracts, they expire today, so you can expect that sort of volatility. And for Nifty as well, we're now comfortably trading around the mark of 10,550. Just want to highlight the oil and gas space among the Nifty constituents are the one which are doing pretty well. So the oil marketing companies, BPCL is now the top gainer on Nifty. You've got HPCL2 which is trading in the green, and also IOC has seen a bit of gains. But besides that, GAIL and ONGC, both these stocks have also seen some gains in today's session. IOC is a bit tepid, but GAIL right now almost a day's high, sitting with gains of nearly closer to 2%. Mayuresh, any thoughts on the oil and gas space? Which side should should an investor position himself or herself at, downstream or the upstream companies?
So it's a mix of both, Navneet, and the two key variables that will probably determine the sensitivity to earnings for both upstream, midstream and downstream companies is the way crude is going to probably get priced. So if one really assumes crude to probably stay in that range of 60 to 63 to 67, 68 dollars a barrel, and the rupee dollar staying around the same levels, you're probably going to see no under recoveries or subsidy sharing happening either on the upstream, midstream or the downstream companies. Having said that, I think the kind of numbers that got reported, obviously the downstream companies had the element of inventory gains coming through, but a large element in terms of their capacity expansions and the complexities at which these capacities will come through will hold the refining margins in good stead. What probably happens in terms of marketing margins, though they have dwindled down over the past few quarters, I think some stability is expected to come through on this front, and that should probably give a leg up in terms of the consolidated sensitivity to the overall earnings for OMCs. So I think IOC with its diverse segment, the pipe segment, the refining segment, the petchem and the product segment, and the EV/EBITDA valuations that individually each of these segments can derive, I think looks very, very promising from a long-term perspective. From a midstream perspective, gas authority is something that I've liked. Yes, numbers were a mixed bag, but again, I think the large element of their petchem segment holding up, you're probably looking at their LPG segment holding up, and any tariff revisions on their pipeline, I think is going to be a trigger in terms of earnings upgrades that can propel return ratios to improve even higher. For the upstream, I think the direct pass-through in terms of gross realizations is a known effect, but the large element in terms of the capex program, both in terms of oil and gas production, is something to be watched out for. So the accumulative rating probably on a stock like ONGC can continue, but what we really like from the upstream is Reliance Industries because of its integrated nature.
Thanks for that, Mayuresh. Okay, 3:20. Before we get in, thank Jay Bala, take his closing strategies, get a closing strategy from Vishvesh Chauhan as well. Jay, to you first, your top closing strategy today.
Yeah, I would agree with Mayuresh, what you spoke about Reliance. If you run a HDS function on Reliance, you will see the mutual fund holdings is less than 3%. And, given that most of the mutual funds are expecting index to hit somewhere close to 12,000, 12,500, whatever be the target, they're going to be scrambling for Reliance, given that they don't want to be underperforming the market. So, and technically speaking, the correction that we saw yesterday, a couple of days ago, was what we call in technical parlance as a flat correction. And we've been bullish on Reliance since February 2016. I mean, we've been projecting a level of 1100 for Reliance. So I think the last leg for it has begun, and it can go to one more dip closer to 875. But if it comes there, it's a buying opportunity. But I think tomorrow is a shorter time frame. I think this current positive trend that it's seeing is likely to continue, and I think Reliance is going to do well.
Okay, so Reliance it is from Jay Bala's end. Jay, thanks a lot for joining in and giving us your thoughts. Vishvesh, Chauhan, your top closing strategy.
I think Neeraj, today metals are looking very good, and somewhere I have a feeling that probably in all this mess, the globally the strengthening dollar is right now, turning out to be, good. Apparently, the correlation from medium-term perspective may not hold, but I think in a very shorter term, all the stocks are showing sign of life. So my guess is that Vedanta as well as in Hindalco, this could be, good BTST for a couple of percentage tomorrow.
Vedanta as well as Hindalco candidates for a BTST. Vishvesh, any thoughts on 2 or 3 consumption names? There's Delta Corp, which is up 4.5%, and United Spirits, which is up 3.5%. After a while, I'm seeing United Spirits gain ground.
See, I think Delta Corp has completed its correction, in my opinion, around 340, and I think now the stock is resuming its uptrend. So one of the trade which we've been talking to, a few of our clients is that index has corrected, 6-7% from the highs, and mid-cap have corrected more than 30, to 20%. If you, take a broader universe, then I think now the trade is again going to be the mid-cap. So somewhere Delta Corp, augurs well for that matter. And my guess is that from current level, the stock is giving indication of another 10-15%. I think in a shorter term, somebody is looking to buy 340, happen to be the a very important level to plus a stop loss. United Spirits, as far as this is concerned, I think the stock has done a very nice move if you see the last couple of years. But the recent fall from the December highs may have completed, and I think now it is offering you a very, very good opportunity. So I would consider it buy with a 20-80 stop loss, or probably if that is a bit longer for a trader, then 3150 would be the stop loss, and target could be 3500 and 3600 on the higher side.
Okay, since you're talking about metals, Hari, you have a call on sale fundamentally.
Yeah. In fact, we like sale from a slightly longer perspective, 1 year perspective. See, finally what's happening is sale is getting its act together on the efficiency front. They are cutting the manpower by about 50% from 1,20,000 down to about 60,000. There's a huge capacity expansion that is happening. I think they should be touching about 21.3 million tons by the end of this year. That should make them the largest steel player, followed by JSW, Tata Steel and the others. I think the good thing is that the steel cycle has just begun, and the capacity expansion is going to be over by this year. So I think the net result is going to be that we are going to see roughly about a 4 to 5-fold increase in the revenue per ton, over the next 5 to 6 years. Now, once that starts, I think, draining into the stock, I think we could see a real value explosion coming. And then there are efficiencies, lower labor, lower costs, all these things will start kicking in over the next 2 or 3 years. So I think if you're looking at the next 4-5 year perspective, great. But even if you're looking at a 1 year perspective, this stock at least has about a 40-50% potential from these levels.
Wow.
Okay, and Steel Authority has actually done well in the last 3 months to 6 months, so to say. And I guess, Mr. Harihar, employee cost was one of the key reasons why at EBITDA level they were not doing that well. And as you mentioned, the employees have now come down to nearly 60,000. Compare that to JSW Steel, I think they've got only 10,000 to 15,000 employees.
Well, that's the direction SAIL will have to move eventually.
Yes.
More of robotization, more of automation, less of manpower. That's the direction they'll have to move eventually.
By the way, guys, BPCL has just shown a very sharp spike up. Vishvesh, any quick thoughts here? BPCL closing in the high point of the day. Is there a trade here?
See, I think entire OMC pack somewhere near you have to start looking at, and BPCL among the one. If you see, last couple of weeks where the IOC announced as a result, and there was announcement of the dividend, BPCL was the only stock out of the three which was not moving, and I think right now it is so suppressed that you may expect some sort of a positive news flow. Also, looking at the price structure, what I can say. So I guess 440 may not violate on the stock, and probably the kind of structure it has of quick 485, and above that, you may discuss higher level. But I think reasonable 485 on a trading terminal you can expect in a very short term.
Well, the entire oil and gas space has been active in the last half an hour. We've seen some strong gains for BPCL as well as HPCL. But few minutes to go for markets to close. Let's head across to Neeraj to find out how exactly the closing is panning out. And Neeraj, heightened volatile day today, but we're still closing in the green.
Yeah, which is actually good news. The Nifty actually recovered quite a bit, 0.5% from the lows of the day. The Nifty Bank too playing some part there, but you would have to say that some of the non-banking names played a part. The likes of BPCL, the likes of Infosys, the metal names that all our guests were talking about have all played a part here. The mid caps and the small caps, unfortunately, while we talk about a recovery in the large caps, these haven't been quite able to get the tail up. So the small cap end as well as the mid cap end of the market clearly facing some music in today's session. What about the winners and losers? As I was saying, well, surprise, surprise, the top gainer is ICICI Bank on the Sensex. On the Nifty, a couple of other names also pile on, the likes of BPCL, etc. Infosys has had some gains. ONGC, Power Grid amongst the names. Heavyweights include an HDFC and ITC, which are trading in the green. Now bring the camera down and you will see the losers here. Hero MotoCorp, Bharti, Tata Steel, L&T, and on the Nifty you would have Indiabulls Housing Finance. So those are 4 or 5 names. But the pain is not really here as far as the red goes. The index is doing okay. The broader end of the spectrum has more pain as far as losers go. And I mean, quite a few losers in the session.
That's right, Neeraj. In fact, the broader market, now today is the second straight day that they've underperformed, but I have to start off with Punjab National Bank, and that's the stock which has seen sharp correction in the last 2 trading sessions, and today it closed almost at day's low levels, so that's not a great sign when a stock actually closes around the day's low. 13% cut coming in for Punjab National Bank. The other one which was weak in today's session was Motherson Sumi. That counter saw some bit of profit booking coming in. It saw cuts of nearly 4% in today's session, and again from the same pack, Bank of Baroda, the PSU banking space, everything was down, and in fact Bank of Baroda was the other one after Punjab National Bank which saw sharper cuts coming about. Well, bucking the trend from the broader markets, TTK Healthcare, this counter was locked in upper circuit with gains of 20%, and it's up 40% for this week. Remember, the numbers had come in on2nd February, and the earnings were pretty strong, so this counter is doing pretty well. ADF Foods is the other one which saw strong gains of nearly 7 to 8% towards the closing session. An 8th straight day for Bombay Dyeing. So that counter has been registering strong gains in today's session. Bombay Dyeing finally closing around the day's high mark of almost 8%. Shree Cement was also up and about. Some bit of strength seen after the news came in that the company has commissioned its grinding unit of 3.7 million ton. On back of that spike came about, and couple of earnings reaction. Weak set of earnings coming in from Jet Airways and also Repco Home, and clearly the stock reacted negatively to both these earnings, and very strong set of numbers coming in from Nestle. Good performance with regard to volume growth. The gross profit margins also for the quarter saw a healthy jump, Neeraj.
So all in all, not a bad last half an hour of trade, but if you look at one, India VIX, I don't know if you already spotted that, and 2, the volumes for today's session, and the FNO volumes would have picked up because of the weekly expiry. This is India VIX, and it's had a volatile 45 minutes of trade. Oops, the chart went away. Nevertheless, as I was saying, the FNO turnover, Namit, not surprised that it's high, but it's fairly high. Nowadays, the 10 lakh crore mark has become passé. We tend to clock in much higher numbers as well. So that is 2. And the contributors list will show you that I don't know if the metals feature among the top contributors because they're not heavyweights. And which is why Vedanta is at number 4. The heavyweights right up there, HDFC and ICICI Bank. ICICI Bank a clear surprise there. Not too many losers. That helps the index in today's session. Sadly, it doesn't help the broader end of the spectrum.
That's right, and Neeraj, had it not been for ICICI Bank, which showed a bit of strength, I guess Bank Nifty would have seen sharper cuts because that's a heavy weight if you look at both Nifty as well as Bank Nifty.
That's true. Anyways, final thoughts from all our experts. Mayuresh, to you first. in the buy mode or on the sidelines mode currently? I mean, what should an average retail investor do?
No, so to a large bit, Neeraj, I think some accumulations at every decline is something that can get mandated for good qualitative large and mid caps is what I've always maintained. Having said that, I think old-time transformers is something that I'll still continue to like on any decline. Very good set of numbers in terms of the top line performance. The EBITDA margin at 11.7% compared to 6.7 and 9.5 on a quarter-on-quarter and year-on-year really did surprise in terms of the operating performance, and even in terms of profitability. The 23.5 crores that it posted compared to 15.3, both on a YOY and quarter-on-quarter basis, is showing signs of stability within this sector itself. So a lot of players who had got in over the last 3 to 4 years probably have started going out, and a large chunk of meteor orders have started flowing into the likes of old-time transformers. Again, very, very strong balance sheet and expectations of rebound in return ratios, specifically return on capital employed, not ruled out. The other stock which again stays on my radar is Endurance Technologies. This is something that I've liked. Very good set of numbers. And going ahead, again, I think the cash flows are expected to improve significantly over the next few quarters, giving the balance sheet the edge that it probably requires compared to other auto anchor companies. What it also does in terms of addition of new clients and the leverage that it can create in terms of the earnings profile can be quite substantial. So Endurance is also something that I'll continue to pursue in a staggered way of declines over the next few weeks.
Okay. Vishvesh, if there is a pullback in tomorrow's session, or let's say if we get a gap up opening, considering the cues in the global markets are positive, will you use that as an opportunity to short the index?
No, Navneet. I think on the other hand, I would rather think of buying. My guess is that somewhere what you made a low, on the 6th Feb, and after that you're consolidating, in that range only. And my guess is that now, as long as we don't give a close below 10,400, rather I would, think of buying it. Right now, I'm reading the whole mess as the, sort of a, outsider without, getting influenced by this, only particular sector, which is, PSU Bank. So if you try to isolate from, PSU Bank and focus large on the market, I think that the stocks which you are ready to buy, a couple of months back, 20-30% higher, are reasonably available right now with the whatever liquidity you want. So why not consider it? At the same time, the global risk somewhere may be, tipping off, in my opinion. So right now, the only risk which I'm able to see is that if Dow Jones, or for that matter S&P, start breaking its lows what it made previous week, that is the only thing. Otherwise, our market are very much into this shape, and until the expiry, I don't see 10,300 going broken on the downside.
Okay. And Mr. Harihar, closing thoughts from you?
See, my suggestion is, if you're brave, if you have a holding power, then I think PNB could be a good buy at these levels. But otherwise, if you're a trader, I would say stay off banks, both private and public sector. I think metals, in my view, is a good place where you can actually play on the long side. The momentum is there. I think the fundamental story is there, and even the buying interest is there. So I think that is the sector I would suggest you should be on the long side.
All right, gentlemen, Vishvesh, Mr. Harihar, as well as Mayuresh, thanks a lot for joining us today and taking us through your views on the markets. Welcome back. You're still watching Countdown with us. Well, there are some important flashes there on your screen where from Bloomberg we're getting to know the breakup of different banks. So Allahabad Bank has exposure of nearly 4,000 crore to the scam, which was known yesterday from PNB of about 11,000 crore. Axis Bank exposure is between 2,000 to 3,000, and Union Bank has exposure of about 1,000 to 2,000 crore in that PNB fraud case. Well, we will be watching out for all these counters in tomorrow's session if there is any reaction that will come by, but the entire PSU banking lot was definitely weak in today's session. Well, moving ahead, with the recent volatility witnessed, what does the road ahead for the markets look like? Let's get in an expert view from Harsha Upadhyaya, Chief Investment Officer for Equity at Kotak Mahindra Asset Management Company, and also Darshan Mehta from our research team joins us. Darshan, over to you.
Okay, Harsha, can you give us an indication what's the current view that you're having on the markets? Are you accumulating more stocks? Are you sitting on cash or moving into cash, seeing the certain volatility in the market?
See, over the last 12 months, the macro seems to be more challenging now. It has worsened for our economy. For example, crude prices have moved up. Interest rates have hardened. At the same time, the corporate fundamentals seem to suggest that the economic recovery is on course, and we have seen earnings momentum getting built in September as well as continuing into December quarter. So we are fairly positive on the corporate earnings growth, but the risks have increased on the macro side. That's what we see overall in the context of the markets. At higher levels, obviously, valuation risk is also there in the market. So hence, there is no need to chase momentum. And next several weeks will be event-free, at least from a local perspective. There could be global events, but locally there are no big events as such. So to an extent, it will be more of consolidation in the markets in our view. And hence, we would look to invest at lower levels and in stocks where we believe that fundamentally things are fine, and if there is any volatility because of whatever reason, we would like to use those opportunities. Other than that, it's fairly a straightforward market, I would say.
Okay, Harsha, what's your view on the new RBI norms that were released 2 days ago?
Clearly, it brings in more transparency into the banking sector. Earlier, there were various mechanisms and forums such as CDR, SDR, S4A, JLF, etc., which in a way kind of delayed the entire resolution of non-performing assets. And to an extent, that is going to get resolved fairly quickly now, because there is a time-bound limit, and if that doesn't get resolved in the next 180 days, then IBC will start to kick in, which means that there is going to be a single resolution process, and it's going to be fairly transparent to everybody. And even today, there are skeptics in the market who believe that the reported non-performing asset levels in many banks are lower than the actual numbers. I think those kind of issues will get resolved, and you will see a lot more transparency in terms of reporting as well as the way forward.
Okay, earnings season's almost over except for Ambuja. What did you make of the earnings season so far?
Earnings season so far has been slightly better than our expectations. As expected, it has been better than even September quarter, and also on year-on-year basis. We have seen close to 20% earnings growth for the basket, which is fairly good, I would say. Although you can say that last year, same quarter had a lower base, so we had a favorable impact due to that. But that's likely to continue even for March and June quarters, because March was a quarter where there was an entire quarter which got affected by demonetization. And June was a quarter where GST transition happened, and hence many sectors and segments felt some bit of short-term pain. I think those two things will enable companies to report fairly good numbers because of the favorable impact that we will have going forward. And anyways, we believe that there is a cyclical recovery in earnings that we are witnessing. So we are fairly positive on the earnings cycle.
Okay, sticking to the earnings season, which were the sectors that surprised you positively and negatively?
I think clearly most of the domestic oriented sectors, including retail private sector banks, autos and cement and capital goods engineering, all these have reported fairly good set of numbers. I won't say that they're way better than expectations, but fairly in line with what we expected and what the market expected. There are no big disappointments as such. The disappointments fairly have been in sectors such as public sector banks and a little bit in telecom, etc., where things have continued to be painful for incumbents. And we continue to believe that even going forward, those are the sectors where there can be further impact on earnings as we go forward.
Okay, given the fact that the markets are volatile, is there any major risks to the market that could aid them going down?
I think the risks are coming from the global side now. With crude moving up, obviously there is some red flag. We need to watch out how crude continues to behave over the next few quarters. Although the kind of impact that our economy would have because of the crude price impact is a lot lesser today compared to, let's say, 3 years back, because most of the prices have got deregulated and there is no fiscal imbalance that you will see if that situation continues. But at the same time, if crude prices were to remain high or were to move up, then it would have adverse impact on the inflation, which is also getting fueled because of our budget policies, which have mentioned that the MSPs will increase for most of the farm sector. So given all this, I think the issues would possibly come from global side rather than local side. We need to watch out for crude prices, and also the interest rates which are hardening across the globe will have some impact on our economy as well at some point of time. And as it is, our inflation is also fairly strong. So these are the two factors that we need to watch out going forward.
Okay, and Harsha, finally, which are the focus sectors that you have in mind going ahead?
Clearly, we believe that there are supportive policies in infra, rural, agri, and some of these sectors can really see good order visibility as well as execution going forward. And hence, most of the allied sectors such as engineering, capital goods, cement, fertilizers, these are some of the areas where we have a fairly large position as of now.
Okay, many thanks for that, Harsha. We'll certainly keep on watching for all that. Back to you guys.
Thanks for that, Darshan. And let's switch focus and speak about the European markets. They're off to a strong opening, and it's been a strong trading day, so to say, for all the three benchmark indices, as you can see it on your screen. Let's head across to Sebastian Salek, who joins us from the London studio with all the details of the equity action there. Over to you.
Well, it's a continuation of the theme we've seen since the US session yesterday. Despite that inflation figure in the country that came in even stronger than analysts expected, we saw gains in Asia as well, and now as well in Europe. Plenty of individual stock stories to dig into, though. Airbus, its 2018 profit forecast and free cash flow both beating estimates. This stock is absolutely surging. Its highest in almost 6 years now, one of the best performers on the stock 600. At the other end of the spectrum lies Standard Life. Lloyd's ending a deal for Standard Life to oversee some of its assets. The stock down the most since the day after the Brexit vote, a turbulent day for many stocks. On a sector level, the miners are your top performers. That says oil on course for its biggest two-day rally in almost 3 months, improving risk appetite, spilling into the crude market as well, as we've already seen it play out in equities. And just as American stockpiles as well, showing slower than expected growth. So these issues colliding to push oil higher. And I've got to finish by touching on South Africa. You saw Zuma resigning, Ramaphosa stepping in, expected to be elected a little bit later today. The Rand and South African stocks moving higher on expectations of business-friendly policies, and also the end of an era that saw a crippling economy in the country.
Well, thanks for that. Thanks for joining me today, and have a great day ahead. Meanwhile, moving back to our markets, Cox & Kings posted a strong set of earnings for the December quarter, with revenue growing fivefold. What have been the key contributors to the healthy quarter? Let's ask the management. Joining us now is the Group CEO, Peter Kirker. Also, Saloni Dhanuka from the research team joins in to take the conversation forward. Saloni?
Thanks for that, Neeraj. Good afternoon, sir. Talking about the quarter went by, it has been a strong quarter overall. Margins have expanded almost 500 basis points in this quarter as compared to the same quarter last year. What has led to margin expansion, sir?
So I think that the critical difference for us is, post-Brexit, we've seen strengthening of the pound, and we were also allowed to anticipate the sort of put up a little price increases of around 5% on our core education product, for example, and also scale. So if you see Meininger over the last year, which is our hybrid hotel group, it's increased from, by almost 2,500 beds. So all these factors have played in terms of us being able to actually, increase our margins overall as a group.
All right, sir. Was there any Forex gains or losses in the margins? And if yes, can you give us some numbers in terms of margins excluding the Forex variations?
Yes, of course. I mean, if you take out the Forex, our growth in terms of EBITDA over last year was a 30% growth. And so it was from 117 to 150 crores of profit. and if you actually take, if you add back the gain, then it's almost a 68% growth in profit. So there was a 17 crore profit gain in terms of our margin. So 168 crores of EBITDA if you include the profit margin, and 151 crores if you exclude the margin. So we were up 30% if you take out all foreign exchange gains, and we were up 68% if you include the foreign exchange gains.
Sure, sir. While there has been a multi-fold jump in the top line, we have seen the bottom line declining a bit. What is the reason for that?
So the main way is that post GST is how we record our income in terms of our packaging and in terms of our tours. So we, especially for our FIT tours, which are our individually tailored holidays, so we record just the business done on it, and that's why you see a decline in top line revenues. But in fact, there's no difference in terms of the top line revenues. It's just a reporting index, and that's why you'll see our net revenues for the quarter went up from 400 odd crores to 493 crores. And so it's just an accounting restatement.
Mining business has grown over 40% on a sequential basis. So what has led to the growth, and do you see the same traction going ahead?
Yes, we do, because as we predicted, mining is one of our fastest growing divisions. And the main reason for this growth is that we opened 4 hotels in this financial year itself. And we are already predicting that for the next financial year, we should put on, from currently around 9,600 beds or so, we are expecting to go to around 15,000 beds. So we think that this growth will continue, and we are seeing, even going forward from that, we are still seeing quite a lot of new openings, which are already planned and already in the pipeline. So we can anticipate that this sector will continue to grow for us quite aggressively.
Speaking of the core business, sir, about your leisure business, Indian leisure has been operationally muted. However, on the other side, international leisure has contributed substantially to the EBITDA. Where is the growth coming from, and which geographies are you focusing on, sir?
So there are 2 reasons for that. I mean, India has shown a pretty good performance in spite of, and it's very stable, and we're still seeing, predicting double-digit growth for the whole year. In terms of our foreign operations, the one big turnaround in the quarter has been the UK, because this is a big quarter for them. And if you'll remember, last year we had the impact of Brexit quite considerably affecting all of our UK assets. However, this is now stabilizing, and we see that this should continue to stabilize for us going forward. The big difference was that Dubai has seen a considerable increase in its business. We've established some very good contracts for ground handling in Dubai. So this has really boosted our profitability.
And so my last question to you is, while it is a seasonally lean quarter for your education business, what kind of forward bookings are you looking there?
The beauty about the education business is that schools can book with us up to 18 months in advance. So we can track future bookings quite effectively. And we're already 6% up year on year for sales for up to March 19 already, because that's the way that the cycle works. And so it's showing quite a strong growth, but that's on increased beds as opposed to last year. So the actual increase is greater than 6%. And we can see that this is a good positive trend for us going forward.
All right, sir, it was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for speaking to Bloomberg Quint. So that was the management of Cox & Kings. Back to you guys in the studio.
Well, thanks a lot for that. Well, moving on, if you're talking about mutual funds activity, HDFC Mutual Fund bought shares in at least 2 of the 3 companies that got listed last month. The country's second largest equity fund picked up stake in Nugent Software and Amber Enterprises, but that's not all. I mean, this is of course the key data. Jayesh Kilani joins us to tell us all that's made it to HDFC MC's portfolio and what got sold as well. Jayesh.
Neeraj, this Amber Enterprises looks certainly interesting because the funds that I have tracked, all of them have picked up stake in this counter. But let's have a look at what HDFC actually did in the month of Jan. Well, their equity assets crossed 20 billion US dollars, and they have about 400 odd securities that they are invested in. In terms of the sectors that they have presence in, financials take the cake with about 33% allocation, followed by industrials at just about 16%. In terms of where they have actually increased and decreased stake, let's have a look at that. So they increased stake in SBI to the tune of about 70 lakh shares, IDFC Bank about 63 lakh shares, and NHPC about 56 lakh shares. And SAIL and Apollo Tyres also, they have increased more than 50 lakh shares in those two counters. In terms of where they have actually decreased stake, we have BHEL. They reduced about 58 lakh shares in BHEL. From the media space, TV18, a cut over there as well. And they have Tata Motors DVR, which goes out to the tune of about 43 lakh shares, followed by Prism Cement and ICICI Bank. In terms of where they have actually picked up stake of fresh or the new buys and sells, what they have done, let's have a look at that. So we have that Newgen Software, they subscribe to 10 lakh shares over there in the IPO. Jubilant Foodworks, they have reintroduced or rebought whatever they had to the tune of about 3.3 lakh shares. Amber Enterprises, this is the one that you have to focus on because a lot of the fund houses have actually subscribed to this IPO. Amara Raja Battery, after a long time, looking at this name, and we have TVS Motors to the tune of about 99,000 odd shares. In terms of the complete sell-offs that they had Suzlon, which goes out of the portfolio, Indocount, Navkar Corp, and Graphite India. But Graphite India was just about 10,000 odd shares that they held. That goes out of the portfolio of HDFC Mutual Fund.
All right, Jayesh, thanks a lot for bringing all those details. Well, moving ahead, Warren Buffett's conglomerate Berkshire Hathaway cut its stake in international business machines by 94% during the December quarter. This essentially draws to close a rare blemish on Buffett's investing record. Bloomberg's Corey Johnson and Tom Giles report.
I just pulled up this thing on the IBM on my Bloomberg terminal. I want to show it to you and to our viewers, which it shows what happened to IBM stock while Buffett was building his position. So if you look over here on the left, you see Buffett increases his position. That's the green line. As the stocks around here, unlike many Warren Buffett holdings, the stock didn't go up while he held it. It went down.
It went the wrong way.
Yeah.
He held it during a really rough period in the IBM story. After Ginny Rometty took over from her predecessor, Palmisano, she really tried to right the ship. She changed some of the ways that they were doing things. The buyback slowed down. She really tried to invest in making this a provider of cloud computing services and getting away from the old IBM mainframes, services, hardware, etc. She's come a long way, but it happened very, very slowly. It's a big ship, and you don't turn a big ship overnight.
I think you're being too nice. I've never been accused of that, at least sitting in this chair. I looked at that holding when he took it and thought, this is a company who's... I was meeting with a CEO of an investment banking firm, an important investment banking firm. It was off the record meeting this morning, and we happened to talk about IBM. Right. And we all laughed around the table. We said, yeah, shrinking revenues and rising earnings per share, who's going to fall for that? Warren Buffett fell for that?
Of all people. And this is a guy who for many years avoided technology, feeling like, I want to leave that to people who know more about it. He wanted, traditionally he invested in things that you understand, that I get. McDonald's, for example, is one of the notable investments.
But he also has owned American Express, and he's owned a lot of Wells Fargo. So he's been in all kinds of things.
Things that he understood and Berkshire Hathaway understood. Tech they avoided, although they've been changing that. Big holder of Apple lately. Right. So he's definitely changed his tune in that regard. And Charlie Munger told Bloomberg a while back, that aversion to technology might have been one of our biggest mistakes. And for some of these companies, they were absolutely right.
Last thing I'll say about it, IBM's profits in this time went from $16 billion a year to $6 billion a year. IBM is a worse company than it was when Buffett first got involved, even though his investment didn't do terribly.
But they're showing signs of life.
Well, he also picks up some stake in Teva. That's the other bit of this piece. But anyways, with that, it's a wrap on this leg of Countdown from Navneet and me and the team that put this show together. Thanks so much for watching.